Welcome, brave hobbyists, to the Unpainted Horde, the podcast dedicated to celebrating and sometimes lamenting the glorious world of tabletop miniatures. I'm Finn.
And I'm Luna. We're here to wallow in the plastic shame alongside you and talk about some of the biggest and smallest miniatures games out there and all those in between. Each week, we'll be diving into rule sets, miniature ranges, painting tips, and everything else that fuels our plastic crack addictions.
All right, miniatures fans, get ready to dive into the neon-drenched, chrome-plated world of Reality's Edge. We're talking tactical skirmishes, powerful megacore and operatives with more cybernetics than you can shake a stick at.
That's right.
This deep dive is your one-stop shop for getting into this game.
Absolutely.
Forget reading the rulebook. We'll cover everything you need to know.
What's really interesting about Reality's Edge is that it nails that gritty cyberpunk feeling.
Yeah.
The world building is top-notch.
The source material really sets the stage.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Sprawl, a massive urban sprawl.
Yeah.
Where mega corporations rule every aspect of life.
Right.
Picture towering arcologies, piercing the sky streets, buzzing with hover bikes and augmented street vendors, all while the ever-present hum of the HyperNET connects everything and everyone. It's like stepping right into a cyberpunk movie.
Exactly. And that setting really comes through in the gameplay itself. But let's take it step by step.
Okay.
First, you need to understand how the Sprawl is structured. It's divided into distinct districts, each with its own flavor.
Okay, so we've got these districts. Tell me more about them. What makes each one unique?
Well, you've got the upper reaches, where the corporate elite live in their luxurious arcologies, completely detached from the struggles of the lower levels. Then there's the burbclaves, which are designed with this strange 1950s retro-futuristic aesthetic, almost like a manufactured nostalgia for a simpler time.
It's like they're trying to escape the reality of the Sprawl by clinging to a romanticized past, but of course that's only for the privileged few.
Exactly. And then you have the street, the heart of the Sprawl, where most people live. It's a chaotic mix of towering skyscrapers, cramped housing complexes, and a constant flow of people from all walks of life.
Right, and let's not forget the rag towns, the lawless zones on the fringes of the city where the megacore have less control.
The rag towns are where you'll find the people who operate outside the system.
Right.
The smugglers, the black marketeers, the outcasts. It's a dangerous place, but also full of opportunities for those willing to take the risk.
Okay, so we've got setting down. We've explored these different districts from the gleaming towers of the upper reaches to the grimy alleys of the rag towns. It's a world of contrasts, a place where high-tech and urban decay coexist.
Yeah.
But what about the action? How do we actually play Reality's Edge?
Well, in Reality's Edge, you take on the role of a showrunner.
Okay.
Someone who assembles a crew of operatives and takes on jobs.
Jobs. So we're not just talking about random street brawls.
Yeah.
There's an actual purpose to the fighting.
Right. Each scenario is called a JOBOP, and they range from corporate espionage to asset retrieval to all-out gang wars.
Wow.
Before each JOBP, you and your opponent decide on a CC level, which determines the overall power level of your crews.
So if I'm going up against a seasoned veteran with a high CC level, I better bring my A game.
You got it. And speaking of crews, let's talk about the operatives themselves.
Okay.
One of the most interesting things about Reality's Edge is the sheer variety of operatives you can recruit.
Okay, hit me with it. What kind of specialists are we talking about?
Well, you've got your classic console cowboys, the master hackers who can manipulate the HyperNET to their advantage. You've also got cyborgs.
Yeah.
Who are augmented with all sorts of cybernetic enhancements, from enhanced strength to built-in weaponry. They're tough to take down, but they can be vulnerable to hacking.
Hacking. So there's a cyber warfare element to this as well. That's cool.
Well, absolutely. It's not just about brute force and Reality's Edge.
Yeah.
A well-placed hack can turn the tide of battle.
I'm already starting to see how the strategic layers unfold in this game. You got the physical combat, the choice of operatives, the environment itself, and now this whole cyber warfare angle. It's not just about who can hit the hardest, but also who can outsmart their opponent.
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on some of the other operatives yet, like the drone jockeys who command robotic companions on the battlefield, or the Sprawl Ronin, those master swordsmen and gunslingers.
Right.
Each operative brings something unique to the table.
Yeah. Okay. I'm already imagining the possibilities: a team of console cowboys hacking into enemy systems while a Sprawl Ronin provides cover fire, or maybe a drone jockey sending their robots on a flanking maneuver while a cyborg charges in for a close-quarters attack.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about how you actually build your crew. It's not just a free-for-all where you can recruit anyone you want. There are rules and limitations to consider.
All right, lay it on me. What do I need to know about putting together my dream team of cyberpunk mercenaries?
So to build your crew, you need to consider a couple things. First off, each crew needs a showrunner who acts as the leader.
So that's me, right? The mastermind behind the operation, calling the shots. I like it.
Then you get to choose your operatives. There are different types like console cowboys, cyborgs, drone jockeys, enforcers, gangers, infiltrators, masks, street dogs, sprawler ronin, and tracers, and each has its own strengths and playstyle.
Whoa, that's a lot of options.
Yeah.
So how do I decide who to recruit? Is there a limit?
The limit is determined by the CC level we talked about earlier. The higher the CC level, the more operatives you can bring to the fight. And each operative type has a point cost heavier hitters, like cyborgs, cost more.
Ah, so it's a balancing act. Do I go for a large crew with a mix of specialists, or do I focus on a smaller elite squad? Tough choices.
And the choice really depends on your playstyle and the specific JOBOP you're taking on, for example. If the mission involves a lot of stealth and infiltration, you might want to prioritize infiltrators and masks, but if it's a straight-up firefight, you might want to load up on Sprawl Ronin and enforcers.
Makes sense. You got to pick the right tools for the job.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools, what about gear? I imagine these operatives need more than just their fists and wits to survive in the sprawl.
Absolutely. That's where the black market comes in. It's a whole section of the rulebook dedicated to equipping your operative.
Okay, so we're talking weapons armor, maybe some fancy gadgets.
All of that and more. You've got your standard weapons like pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, but then you've also got more specialized gear like miniguns, flamethrowers, even cybernetic enhancements.
Flamethrower, sign me up. That sounds like a good time.
Just be careful, those things have a tendency to attract unwanted attention, especially from the corporate security forces. And don't forget about carrying capacity. Each operative can only carry so much gear.
Right, so I can't just load them up like pack mules. Got to make some tough decisions about what's essential for the mission. But when you mentioned cybernetic enhancements, tell me more about those.
Cybernetics are a big part of Reality's Edge. They can give your operatives a serious edge in combat. We're talking about things like cybernetic arms for enhanced strength, cyber eyes for improved perception, even cyber legs that can give you a speed boost.
It's like turning your operatives into super soldiers.
Yeah,
But isn't there a downside to all that chrome?
there can be. Cybernetics can be expensive, and there's always the risk of addiction or even cyberpsychosis.
So it's a trade-off power,
Yeah.
comes at a price. It's a classic cyberpunk theme.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got our crew assembled, we've geared them up, and we're ready to hit the streets. What's next?
Time for action, and that means understanding the core mechanics of the game at its heart. Reality's Edge uses opposed tests for actions like combat.
Opposed test, so it's not just about rolling a die and hoping for the best.
Nope. In an opposed test, both players roll a d10, add their relevant stat and any modifiers, and the player with the higher result wins.
Okay, so there's an element of skill involved, not just pure luck. You've got to make strategic decisions about positioning, targeting, and using your operative's abilities effectively.
Exactly. And to add a bit of spice, there are criticals and fumbles. Roll a 10 and you score a critical, which usually means an automatic success, but roll a 1 and you fumble, which can have some pretty disastrous consequences.
So even the best laid plans can go awry with a bad roll of the dice. It's like the sprawl itself is throwing a curveball at you. I love it. It keeps things unpredictable.
And that's not all. Reality's Edge also uses stat tests for actions like hacking, where you're trying to beat a target number, but we'll dive into that a bit later first. Let's talk about the flow of the game. Each turn is divided into phases.
Okay, so break it down for me. What are the key phases I need to know about?
Each turn starts with an activation phase where you roll to see which of your operatives are ready to act. Then comes the action phase where you spend action points to move, shoot, or perform other actions.
Action points, so I can't just have my operatives running around like crazy doing everything they want. There's a limit to their actions.
That's right. You have to choose wisely how to spend those precious action points. Do you go for a full-on assault, or do you play it more strategically using cover and positioning to your advantage?
It's all about making those tactical decisions, weighing the risks and rewards.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a feel for how this game works. It's fast-paced, dynamic, and full of tough choices. But what about close combat? How does that work?
Close combat is resolved using those opposed tests we talked about. The attacker rolls, the defender rolls, and the highest roll wins. Of course, there are modifiers based on weapon skills and other factors.
So it's not just about who has the bigger sword or the faster reflexes. There's a lot of strategy involved. And what happens if I win a close combat attack? Do I automatically take out my opponent?
Not so fast. If you win, you roll for damage, which is determined by your weapon and your strength.
Okay, so it's not a guaranteed knockout? There's a chance my opponent might survive and strike back that keeps the tension high.
Exactly. And remember, even if you lose a close combat attack, you might be able to parry or dodge, reducing the damage you take.
So there's always a chance for a comeback, even when things look grim. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
But what about ranged combat? How does that differ from close combat?
Ranged combat follows a similar process, but you're rolling to hit based on your aim stat and the range of your weapon.
So if I've got a sniper rifle, I'm going to have a better chance of hitting a target from afar than someone with a pistol.
Exactly. But remember, line of sight and cover play a huge role. If your target is ducking behind a wall, you're going to have a much harder time hitting them.
So positioning is key, both for offense and defense. I've got to think about angles, cover, and how to best utilize my operatives' weapons and abilities. This is getting me excited.
And just when you think you've got a handle on the tactical landscape, Reality's Edge throws in another layer of complexity: cyber warfare.
Okay, cyber warfare. I'm all ears. This is where things get really cyberpunk, right?
Absolutely. Hacking is a game changer in Reality's Edge. It adds a whole new dimension to the tactical gameplay.
So we're not just talking about shooting and punching. There's a digital battle going on as well.
Right. You can use hacking to disrupt enemy systems, sabotage cybernetics, even take control of enemy bots and drones. It's a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it's not without risks.
Yeah, I can imagine a sloppy hack could leave a trace that leads right back to my crew. Not good.
Exactly. That's why it's important to have skilled console cowboys on your team. They can use those applications or apps that we talked about earlier to achieve specific effects.
So remind me, what kind of apps are we talking about?
Well, there's Disable, which shuts down enemy gear nerf, which reduces an opponent's effectiveness and control, which lets you take over enemy bots or drones.
Wow, those are some serious digital weapons. So how does hacking actually work in the game?
It's all based on opposed tests. Your console cowboy's cyberstat goes up against the target's firewall rating.
So the higher the target's firewall, the harder it is to hack. Makes sense.
And just like in real-world hacking, there are countermeasures and defenses to worry about.
So it's a constant cat and mouse game between hackers and those trying to protect their systems.
It's a battle of wits waged on the digital battlefield. It adds a whole other layer of strategy and tension to the game.
All right, so we've covered combat hacking, crew building, and the overall setting of Reality's Edge. But how do we actually measure success in the game? Is it just about winning the fight?
Winning is important, of course, but Reality's Edge goes beyond that. It's also about your crew's reputation.
So it's like street cred in the world of cyberpunk mercenaries.
That's a good way to put it. Your reputation, represented by RAP points, opens doors, attracts new recruits, and can even influence the outcome of missions.
So it's not just about brute force. It's about building a name for yourself in the sprawl.
Exactly. You earn RAP by completing JOBOPS, achieving specific objectives, and generally making a name for your crew.
Makes sense. So if I want to become a legendary showrunner, I need to focus on more than just winning battles. I need to build a reputation that precedes me.
Right, and your reputation can even have an impact on the narrative of the game. It might open up new opportunities, attract the attention of powerful shadow backers, or even lead to unexpected twists and turns.
This is fascinating. I love how Reality's Edge weaves the narrative and the gameplay together. It's not just about rolling dice and moving miniatures. It's about creating a story within this rich and vibrant cyberpunk world.
And speaking of stories, let's talk about those JOBOPS in a bit more detail. They're the heart of the Reality's Edge experience. Each JOBOP is a unique scenario with its own set of objectives, challenges, and rewards.
So it's not just a series of random skirmishes. There's an actual purpose to the fighting.
Right. The JOBOPS provide a framework for the narrative. They give you a reason to fight, and they create those memorable moments that you'll be talking about long after the game is over.
Can you give me some examples of what a typical JBBOP might entail?
Sure. You might be tasked with stealing corporate secrets, rescuing a kidnapped VIP, or sabotaging a rival gang's operation.
It sounds like there's a lot of variety in the types of missions you can undertake.
Absolutely. And each JOBOP comes with a detailed job description outlining the objectives, the challenges, and the potential rewards.
So it's like receiving a briefing from your shadowy client, setting the stage for a thrilling cyberpunk adventure.
Exactly, and to add to the excitement, each JOBOP includes mission variables, which are random events that can shake things up.
So it's not just about following a script. There's always the potential for unexpected twists and turns.
That's the beauty of Reality's Edge. It's a game that keeps you on your toes. It's unpredictable, dynamic, and always engaging.
I'm really impressed with the depth and thought that's gone into creating this game. It's more than just a tabletop miniatures game. It's a complete cyberpunk experience.
Well said, and I think this deep dive has given you a solid foundation to start exploring the world of Reality's Edge. for yourself.
Definitely, if you're a miniatures gamer looking for a fresh and exciting cyberpunk experience, Reality's Edge is worth checking out.
Assemble your crew, choose your weapons, and get ready to dive into the heart of the Sprawl.
Remember, in this world, reputation is everything. So make sure your crew leaves a mark on the streets of the Sprawl. Good luck out there. Well, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Unpainted Horde. We hope you learned something, and maybe even feel a little bit better about that mountain of unpainted miniatures looming over you.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us spread the word and justify our addiction. Until next time, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor, and may your primer coats be thin.
This podcast was created with significant help from Google Notebook LM.